Welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strauss Lawrence. Hi, Sue.
Hi, I'm Susan Caperso, End of Life Doula. Thank you for joining us today. A couple technical issues this morning. I hope you can hear us okay here. We wanted to start out today. Lisa and I are both published authors, and we haven't taken the time through our YouTube series to really talk about the books we've published and why we published them. So this week we decided, let's talk a little bit about them. They're important tools for families to use at home for themselves, family members, or caregivers.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Were you going to say?
I really believe in support books. I think that support books help people feel, number one, that they're not alone. Number two, it gives them really a lot of tools that they might not have realized before. And therapeutically, for me, it really helped me in my own journey. And I don't know if that was the case also for you, Susan.
But not only for you, Lisa. So what you wrote in your books is therapeutic for anybody who has them in their hands.
Yes.
It is definitely therapeutic to be able to write them and put down our thoughts and ideas onto paper. But for the person who's reading it, it's therapeutic as well. It's a guidance system. When I want to learn anything, I go to Mr. Google, right? But it's the same thing with my books and my audio books. And I researched the topic. I wanted to know more about intermittent fasting. Okay, so I absorb all of the material, and it comes from all over. It comes from YouTube, comes from Google articles, it comes from books. So this is why we decided to put these books to help and serve, and that's our purpose, right?
Yes. And it's wonderful to be able to share that with everybody, because this has been a journey for both of us. For many years. So we're going to talk about the books. We're going to explain what they do, when they were published, why they were published, and where they can be found. How's that? Okay. We'd like to start with Susan, since the beginning is more than for me at the end. So End of Life Journey. So I'll share a screen, and you'll be able to see some information for Susan's books.
Wonderful.
Okay, great. Okay,
Ooh,
Susan.
There's my book. So the one on the right is the one I'm talking about right now, Coming Full Circle, when the diagnosis is terminal. And this is over 100 tools, tips, and ideas that you can bring into your life with a terminal diagnosis, or if you're a caregiver, family member, or friend, to help guide and support the process along the way. And, no matter what kind of life we've lived, we want to know that our lives are coming full circle. We all want a little bit of closure at the end. And how do we get that, especially in a day and age when dying is the second leading fear globally, worldwide? People are afraid. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do during the process. So in this book, I offer a lot of different creative ways, I like to say, to help a person's life always be remembered. As an end-of-life doula, I specialize in creative legacy work, too, to leave some of their stories and memories and experiences behind. So you'll find through the book that I do offer creative projects, right, and ideas and remembrances that you as a family can pass on for generations to come. And the book's not just for the person who wants to come full circle and is leaving the world, but for their family and for generations to come. And it'll help everyone with the transition process.
It's such a great book because it shows so many different relationships, where that person was a spouse or a parent or a friend. You describe all the different ways that people can celebrate that person. Just wonderful ideas.
Right.
Beautiful.
And you may think, oh wow, 100 tools, tips, and ideas is too many. What is this all about? But you know what? You might grab one or two things out of this book that you can bring into your loved one's life. And it will not only solidify their life here, but it'll help you connect and bond better with the person that's about to leave the world. And what do we want more than that, right? So this is all about love. The bottom line is love. And if you know that the person that you love left the world, and it's okay because you were able to find closure and find that connection and find that true raw bonding and interaction with that person, and it's possible. But what happens is everybody's afraid and they're not sure. What do we say? What do we do? Do we talk about it? So they push things under the carpet. That's what I've learned along the way. Nobody talks about it, and the person will get sicker and sicker along their process until they can't talk about it anymore. And now it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I try to bring some inspiring and positive legacy work into my clients' lives. And this is a never-ending story. We're all in a big story, in a sense, right, Lisa? And we know that. And we're here for a short time. And the projects that you can work on with the person who's passing, again, it's not just for you and for your children and for the next generation that will never meet them. It's for them to know that their lives were worthwhile. And by bringing these things in is bringing closure, and it's validating the life that they lived and the existence that they had. Like you said, it's a form of therapy. Yeah. It's a form of therapy for both you and the person helping you to travel this journey, because it gives loving closure and completion on a person's life. And when it's easy to say these words, right, Lisa? And it's easy to talk them, but it's true. It's true, because what happens if you don't get to do these little things with the person that you love, and they do leave unexpectedly, or they get sicker sooner than you think? There's so much closure that hasn't been met. And yes. when there is no closure and they leave and they're gone in the world, who suffers?
Yeah.
The
living, and the regrets and the feeling of this lack of, as you said, closure. Just, and here you could have had the opportunity to really bond and celebrate that person.
So creating Coming Full Circle was my aha book for people. It's like it turns a light bulb on, right? Oh no, okay, yes, we have to face the terminal diagnosis here, but now we need to go to work. And that's what I do with my clients. So when I work as a doula, I like to come into somebody's life 6, 7, 8 months ahead of time, so that we have time to talk about this. There's no right time to talk about death and dying. There isn't. Nobody wants to do it, right? Society's so frightened, we don't even want to think about it. So no matter where you are on the timeline, though, if you have a plan in place, even if it's just a few months before, you can still implement certain things. Like leaving some audio for your spouse, on a little recorder that they can listen to, that you're validating the last 25 years of life with them, or however long. You're validating your love for them. How I've heard from so many widows that I've worked with, my God, if I just had his voice there next to me at the bedside, confirming that you've got this, it's okay. You will move on and you've got this. But people are afraid to think about it. So the important thing is being mindful, thinking about the path and the journey that you're all about to go on, and finding ways to encourage the person passing to be more open with their thoughts and ideas, and what can we do to help the living after you're gone, to
move on.
Grieve less, move on. Those are simple, easy words.
Yeah.
Although we've both been through it, so they are the words to use, right? They are the correct words to use.
Yes, and it is that journey, but the preparation that you're saying is so important.
It really is. It really is, because when you can be on the journey together in sync with each other and say, hey, let's do a little bit of this, let's do a little bit of that, let's implement some of this, let's implement some of that. You're saying goodbye in such a way. I always go back to the story that I wrote a series of blogs about these two women that I knew, and their daughters were 21. And the one did a lot with her husband and her daughter, and it promoted such a love and bonding between them that it was healthy, that they were able to move on and grieve a little bit better. Whereas the woman who was in denial and didn't even want to speak about dying, didn't incorporate anything, and it really had an effect later on for her family.
Sure.
You know, so as we grow older, though, we grow more spiritually, we grow more emotionally, and we know that some of these things are really important for our family and friends. But anybody watching this, you know, you have to be the person to do this. You really have to be the one to make it okay for them after you're gone. I mean, face it, not only is it going to be some of the best memories that you can leave to make sure that you have closure before you leave the world, but it's so incredible how lives will be changed later on. And I know I reiterate that and I say it over and over again, but I've seen it work, and I've seen proof in the process. And that's what led me to want to write the book and put all of these ideas into the book for you to think about before you go. Yeah. Embrace your story, right? Lisa, we're here for a short amount of time.
We are.
We really are. You and I both. And that's why we want to get out all the things we want to get out now that we're experienced in, can help others with, because we know how short time is. You know, for you and I both. If we're still doing videos in 30 years, that would be a bonus, right? We have fun doing this, but we're here really to help and to serve and to help people know that it's important to embrace your story.
Yeah, I think we need to mention and remind everyone again that we both have experienced death through many, many people at many times in our lives.
Right.
And so it's not that we just talk about this or write about this, but both of us have experienced it, and we know this. This is part of our lives.
Right.
That's what I always tell people. Death has always been part of my life.
Exactly. Yeah. And then sometimes, you know, there are two other parts of the book. There were things that I put in through a lot of research that I've done about, you know, what you can do thereafter. I mean, what do you want to do with your ashes? How do you want to be celebrated? And a lot of people will look at you like you have two heads, you know, like, I want to talk about that. Well, I wouldn't know the first thing to think about. Or so there's a lot of ideas that will get your mind going. And you might say, yes, I want you to plant that tree in the backyard with that little bench, right? And maybe always sit out there and read a book and remember me as that special, quiet, gentle place. So it's all these different types of ideas that I implement in the book as well. And lastly, an important part of this book, coming full circle, is that as a doula, I learned that when I come into a person's house, and even if the terminal diagnosis is months out, okay, and the person's fully cognitive and has all their, you know, thoughts and ideas to them, and they can speak and they have their feelings, and this is a well before. When you talk to them and the family about some of the things that will be happening, the physical senses, right, the emotional things that they'll be going through along the timeline, when the time comes and that person's going through one of these physical aspects or emotional aspects, it makes it much easier for the family to understand and accept.
Yeah. Well, they're better prepared. They're better prepared and they understand.
Better prepared, because I turn and I grab somebody's hand and I say, hey, remember when we spoke about this months ago? We spoke about this, and this is a natural thing, and it's part of how the body shuts itself down.
Yeah.
And when you say that, then a family will look at you and say, oh, that's right. You told us this. It's okay now. And there's such a relief of anxiety and fear there, Lisa.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
So I try and implement that in the book as well. It's a nice culmination of a little bit of everything regarding end of life.
Nice. Do you want to mention the other two books as well?
Quickly, Remember Me, The Story of My Life is in the middle there. And this book I wrote for not only people with a terminal diagnosis, but for people that are mindful, that want to leave some of their memories and experiences down on paper before they go. Because, you know, even Lisa and I, we're the ancestors in this room right now. right? And we have memories and experiences and thoughts and ideas that we want to share with the generations that we're never going to get to meet.
Right.
So in this book, it's a small little few sentences on the top of the page. You've seen books like this before, to get your thought process going, to bring you back to a place in time, like your 5-year-old self, remembering what your bedroom looked like and some of the toys that you had. And I do workshops with these books, and I actually had a workshop of 90-year-old women. There were no men that came to that group, but they were 90-year-old women, and giving me every excuse. They might have to leave the room because they have a doctor's appointment that they don't remember right now. One woman was shaking and said, I'll never be able to write a sentence. I'll tell you, it was a longer process with these group of women, but I got to tell you, every page that we did together, they filled out to the end.
Nice.
And they laughed. They were sharing the memories. One woman was telling me, I remember my boyfriend in kindergarten. His name was such and such. And then all the other women were laughing and wanted to know more. And then this one remembered and that one remembered. And it's just a fun thing to help your journey come full closure. And this is something we can start when we're 40, 50 years old. Honestly, my sister passed. She's 10 years younger than me and left 3 little children behind. And if this was something, imagine that she had halfway filled out, right? Her 3 kids are going to grow up now not knowing her unless I talk about the different things that I remember.
Right.
But if they had a book like this, it would be kind of like, this is my mom. She wrote this, and this is what she thought about her first date. You know, these are really cool things. The other book before you go is just a simple ebook on the process of what will happen as the person begins to pass before you go. And that one actually you can find on EastEnd.Academy because I offer that as a free ebook as well.
I'm going to stop the share and just show the site so that everybody gets to see your bookstore site. And this is EastEnd.Academy. Let me just move this over so everybody can see where we are. So that's the bookstore. And that free ebook that Susan mentioned is right over here. There it is.
There you go. Yeah. So just click on that link and you can download the free digital version. And hopefully it will help you in some small way. And if anybody has any questions about anything, I mean, the Coming Full Circle course I do offer to family, friends, and caregivers as an online digital course. And I offer a end-of-life navigator certification with that as well. And you can find that at EastEnd.Academy.
We're going to do the course website later, okay? But I just want to show all the books that you have in your bookstore right here. Easy to find, add to the cart. Really easy to do.
That's at EastEnd.Academy.
Really nicely. EastEnd.Academy.
Lisa, now
beautiful.
I want to hear more about your books.
Sure. Let me just introduce the fact that my husband had died of pancreatic cancer, and I believed very strongly that the more we know, the better off we are. And so my first book came from the fact that after he died, I kept saying, didn't even know where pancreas was. I didn't understand like anything, the medical or anything about it. We went through this whole process and just tried to get through as best we could for 15 months. And after he died, within a month and a half, I said, I have to do something about this. And I went on a listserv for pancreatic cancer, and I had been on it for a while, but now I realize, hey, this is a great resource. And so I asked the person who was arbitrating it, mediating it, whether it was possible to get some people who'd be willing to contribute to a book, families who were all going through pancreatic cancer or who had lost, their loved ones already. And I came up with 20 families that agreed to do this. And in my mind, it was going to be about pancreatic cancer, about how we all coped, about what happened to us, and our family member. But also I had an altruistic, belief that any monies that were raised through this book should go to Lustgarten Foundation. Lustgarten Foundation is right here on Long Island, and it is the world's largest private not-for-profit funder of pancreatic cancer research. It is a deadly disease. It's one of the 4 deadliest cancers. And so I felt that it really needed to support research, which they're really moving along. They've isolated a few things, still not as quickly as we would like, but it's happening. So let me go into that first book, by the way, which was published on September 3rd, 2010, a year and a half after my husband died. 20 families and 4 survivors at that time when that book was published, which was, by the way, amazing, 4 out of 20. That's really great odds, considering the odds for pancreatic cancers is really, really bad. So let me go into what that looks like.
Lisa, I wanted to just mention one thing that I remember you talking about previously too.
Sure.
That even though it's families with pancreatic cancer, you mentioned many times, right, that it's for any family with any kind of cancer or terminal diagnosis like that.
That's right. That's right. And when I go to the second book, that's even more important. But this book really was about a challenging diagnosis about this disease. It's pancreatic cancer. It's a family affair. And it was, as I said, published at that time, raised money, but it was also a support book so that people who were going through it at the time would feel that they had at least a resource to look towards. What did we do, and what were the different things, what were the options, and what did we explore? And I mean, all these things, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't really know anything about the whole disease. So it was, quick dive into clinical trials, into, non-resectable and Whipple and all kinds of words I'd never heard before. So the families were really very honest and very open about sharing their experiences. We went from our lives before diagnosis, through diagnosis, into treatments, and some of us, of course, into the death of our loved ones. Others talking about the ongoing treatments and, experimental treatments and things like that. So I am really proud of the book because it was something. First of all, people say to me, you wrote a book. You just learn about something that you really want to do. I knew that it was something that was important to me. I thought that it would be important to other people. So, I found out how you publish a book. That's what I did. And it took me a year and a half to get to the point of having the material ready. And of course, all my willing participants in these families to be able to contribute to what I was asking them. Each month a specific topic, and they were very honest and forthright. And by the way, this is not a medical guide. We even write on it that this isn't. We're not practicing physicians or anything like that. This is just our experience as family members and our loved ones going through this particular disease. And as I said, and as you mentioned, it could really be any disease and any difficult diagnosis. Pick this one because of all of us sharing this particular cause. So that's pancreatic cancer. It's a family affair. Now, as time went on, as we all know, life moves on, and it's pretty unbelievable. You go through different stages, and I do consider myself a bereavement specialist. And as you go through these stages, you think to yourself, what is my next day going to bring? My next month, my next year? What is life going to be like? I was very lucky. My husband said to me, please promise me you won't live alone the rest of your life. And not everybody gets that kind of encouragement and quote permission to move on, but I did. And I did find my life changing in 2 years, and significantly. And now I look back, and it's 12 years. And it's pretty incredible what's happened in my life. And I'm very grateful. So I have been in touch with these families for most of these years. How are they doing? What's happening? Wishing them birthdays and anniversaries or anything that would come up. And I consider them really almost all as extended families. And so I started with the thought of, wouldn't it be nice to be able to say, okay, here's where we were then, and here's where we are now. And I reached out to all 20 families and said to them, would you consider contributing to a second book that would show where we've been, where we're going, where we are, the process? I wanted to be the bereavement process. And though we all go through this differently, I wanted them to express a time frame. I had it, broken down into different times, different years. And I wanted to show that life does change even before you realize it without any planning. Sometimes there's a lot of planning. So out of those 20 families, 12 family members agreed that they would love to do this. And it takes dedication, it takes work. And by the way, none of these families receive any compensation for any of this work that they were doing. And that's really important. And they all know that any of the monies, again, go to Les Garten Foundation. So the second book came out exactly 10 years to the day on September 3rd, 2020. What a different world. You've got COVID. We can't do some beautiful book release in person, which I did the first time. It was a virtual book release. It's a very different era with COVID and everything that's going on. But I'm really proud of this book. By the way, I do want to mention that September 3rd, keeping my husband alive in my heart, September 3rd, 1975 is when we met and started our relationship. September 3rd, 1977 is when we got engaged. And of course, September 3rd, 2010 is when the first book, and September 3rd, 2020 is the second book. So you see, I'm a when it comes to dates and symbolic kinds of things, that's me. So this was really important to me. So what happened in this book was we broke it down into years. We have, of course, the original thing, what happened to us, because I want the reader to understand what happened to us. And then we break it down to the first year and a lot of firsts. People go through a lot of firsts in their lives. And then, of course, the second year, and then 5 years out, 10 years out, looking back. So it's broken down. And that's really good, because if a person needs to read it just at that time frame, they'll be able to relate the stories during that time frame. And I had people share pictures during that time frame as well. So it's very personal. The families are incredible. I love them all. And out of this, I have one survivor. The others are deceased now. But one survivor who's really struggled to live and have a healthy life. So both books are special to me and personal to me, and they mean, of course, a lot. I send them out, which is really interesting because you mentioned it before, I'll mention it now. I send them out sometimes as a gift. Somebody calls me up and says, my friend just lost her husband. Would you send them Families Move On? Because it wasn't pancreatic cancer, but it was the fact that now my friend doesn't have a husband anymore. Or doesn't have a spouse anymore, or a parent, whatever it is. And I sent a number of them as gifts, which was really nice. Something I hadn't even thought about before. So just really, really sweet. I also, of course, have a website. I don't have a bookstore, but I do have a website as well. And I'd like to share that, but I need to stop first, because sometimes, unfortunately, you can't go from one to the other screen. So I'll go back to this. I want to share the website of this. This is a really pretty website that was made for this book. The whole theme for me has been the butterfly. I think that we're in our cocoon after somebody dies, and we break out and we break free. And it's emotional to me because my anniversary would be next week. We would have been married 43 years. So this is an emotional time. May is an emotional month for me. But anyway, so I love the cover. And, this describes, of course, the book. And then there's an author section. And in my author section, which is the back of the book, I love this part. This is the part where I show that you come full circle for you in your life. My husband and I had a beautiful place that we went to called Chittenango Falls. And 1975, that's what I looked like from Syracuse University. Wow, like another lifetime ago. And in 2019, I went to the same place at Chittenango Falls with my partner of almost 10 years. And it's just wonderful to see that you can share even the same place with somebody, and that I can be in love again. Just such an incredible gift, and I'm so grateful.
What's even more wonderful, Lisa, and I have to say, is that even though you got choked up and emotional about the month of May, look at the wonderful things that you've done and the people that you've been able to help since this time.
Yeah.
So not only have you relished in the memories that he's left you all this time, but you've been able to help so many more people because of your experience.
Yes.
And you have to be grateful.
Thank you, for that. Right? I am. And we've both done that, Susan.
Yeah.
which, we've both done that. I want to show you some of the links because that's the Lustgarten Foundation, the online memorial, which we've talked about before, that you can have an online memorial for somebody. That's the online page. I have a Facebook page, of course, for the book. And then for me, I just want to say that if you do buy the book through me directly, half of the money goes to Lustgarten Foundation. Now, both of us do have our books on Amazon, and that's an external link. So that's a different way of buying it, and it's easy and all, but I don't get the same amount of reimbursement as I do if it's individual. So, direct. I want to also show the blog for a reason, because Susan and I have been on a few things lately. So we were on a program called the Power Business Hour. And we talked about the sands of time. We talked about our YouTube videos, and we talked about, each of us and what we've done. So that was really, really nice. And then we also, I highlighted, of course, this channel, which, ongoing videos that we do every week, which is really nice. And then I had a book interview individually with the Power Business Hour. I have a book sales video, which you do too, Susan, which introduces the book and what we're doing. And I've also walked, of course, for Lustgarten Foundation and things like that. So really nice. And just, we encourage everybody to visit our pages, visit our websites, because, we share and we describe what we've been through and what we've done and how we are reaching out to others. This is so important for both of us to do.
And that was beautiful, Lisa. Thank you. And I want to stress the YouTube channel. It's something that we're very proud of. Lisa and I do not get paid for doing this.
Yes.
We do it because of our passion and because of the little niche topics that sometimes people don't talk about. So you're learning little bits of the information that you may not have otherwise gotten. Even as one as fluffy as the jewelry that we did. And I'm not saying it was fluffy, but it's about jewelry, how you can repurpose the jewelry after you losing a loved one. So they're important little topics that we don't often get to hear about. Yeah. So I am very proud of doing this channel.
Me too. And we also did, back in January, we did a workshop, which was the Sands of Time, and it was attended by a lot of people. Again, a free workshop that we gave. We're good at that. Let's talk a little bit about our one-to-one work as well, Susan. Why don't you talk about what you offer?
Yeah, so it used to just be the end-of-life doula work, where I would work with a person and their family, whether it be in their home, and then when COVID came, a lot of it was done virtually in Zoom rooms like this. And I was a big help for an individual or their whole entire family. So all of that's good. I do that. But then my legacy work also became a little bit of a separate entity, because although I do it with an end-of-life person, really the legacy work is for everybody who wants to leave their stories and memories behind as well. So I have a couple different packages. My phone number is right up there on the screen. You can jot it down. You can give me a call anytime, and we can talk about the legacy work with a person at the end of life or not at the end of a life, vibrant, healthy, that wants to leave their story behind. I do that helping them finish the book, or virtually like this, so you can leave flash drives to the future generations to come.
To me, it's an amazing gift.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful gift that you
give.
I've
done them. The nice part about when I do these legacy workshops, it's about 10, 12 total hours. We don't do it, of course, at all one time, over about 4 weeks. But what's nice is I just finished working with a woman in Ireland. Wow. For all of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And so it doesn't matter where you are, we can do this and work on this project together. And sometimes there's laughing, sometimes there's crying, sometimes there's storytelling, and you're letting it loose. And it's a lot of fun. We have fun. I miss my clients when I don't see them anymore, because we've developed a bond and a friendship along the way too. I still get text messages.
Sure, you share their life with them, Right.
And what about you, Lisa? What are some
I think I fell into being a bereavement specialist because I've grieved a lot and have encountered death many, many times and realized I've always known how precious life is. And I've always known that day to day, you have to make the most of your life. So for me, it's being able to help anybody who feels that they're going through a very difficult time, whether it's just the person who is just now left, or even a year later, and somebody says, well, it's a year. Shouldn't I be over this? No. It's not about time. And it really is about allowing yourself not only grieving, but also celebrating that person's life. And they're always part of your life. So I'll just tell you yesterday. So my father's been gone for 37 years. I was 30 when he died, and that is a long time ago. And every year I watch the most special movie that I believe was ever created. And that was created by Barbara Streisand. She directed it, she acted in it, she sung in it, she produced it. And it's called Yentl. And it is the most beautiful movie. And if you stay to the very end, because every year I've watched it since 1984, if you stay to the very end, you will see who she dedicated that movie to. She says, this is dedicated to my father and all of our fathers. And I didn't know that when I first saw the movie. My father had died 6 months before that. And we saw this big banner saying Yentl. And my husband said, you want to go? You like Barbara Streisand? And we went, we had no idea what this movie was about. So I felt like it was very symbolic that I was there. And that now every year in May, I always watch this movie. I know every line. I know everything that's happened, but it's a beautiful movie, and it really does celebrate him. So again, you come up with things that are comforting and reassuring and just celebratory about that person. He's still with me, an influence in my life. We're driving yesterday back from Pennsylvania, and I took the Major Deegan, and everybody else takes 95. And I said, this is how my father taught me how to come back from upstate. And it's true. He didn't like going on 95. I mean, and these are the little things that keep those people there with you,
I gotta tell you, that's a beautiful story. And because of me knowing that story, right, I developed even a new story in my life. So my husband's been gone 7 years now. His favorite movie of all time was Dances with Wolves. And if you know that movie, it's a long movie.
It's like 4 hours.
So through the years, once in a while, you're looking at the guide and that movie, you see it on the guide, and I'm like, oh no. And I just keep switching and scrolling through. I don't want to see it. I don't want to look at it. I just, something about it, right? It touches too close to home. So it was our anniversary. And because of you, Lisa, doing all this, I said, it just so happened I had a bottle of wine in the house. Nobody was here, and the movie came. And I was like, how I could cry. How perfect was this to happen like this? I lit some candles, I poured a glass of wine, and I put the movie on. And I didn't move for 3 hours or 4 hours, it might be. I don't know. It's a really long
movie.
But I gotta tell you, just being in the moment and being present with the whole thing as if he was watching his favorite movie again, and me celebrating him gives me the chills thinking about it. It was like the perfect evening. I had all my candles lit in the house, a lot of ambiance going on, and I gotta tell you, it felt good.
Yeah.
Felt really good, and it made me feel like, something, this is a tradition.
Yes. You know what people are afraid of? They're afraid that they're going to fall apart and come and not be able to put themselves back together again.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that they will. But they
do.
need to allow themselves those moments, those times, like you did, of real embracing that feeling, that presence, that person, and it's okay. At the end of the movie, I know the song, I know the expression, I know the whole thing, and I always just cry and cry. And then I pull myself up again and say, I love you, Daddy, and I miss you. And, and then you wake up the next day and you're on with your life. But I think that we deserve that time. They deserve that time. And what an incredible way of celebrating people's lives. They're not, they're gone. Okay. They're gone from our physical life, but everybody needs to know they're still here with us. They, they're in our hearts. They're in our experiences. They're part of us. We are part of them. Everything that we are, part of them, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our parent,
I wanted to mention one last thing. I know we're in the zone right now. You and I can go on and on about this stuff.
We can.
And we do have another YouTube video. I believe we did one on life celebrations.
We did.
We did, right?
We did,
okay,
yes.
So just
good.
as an update, I just wanted to mention that even with COVID, right? Lisa and I also help people with end of life celebrations, whether the person's here or not. So a beautiful woman had lost her husband here on Long Island during COVID and wasn't allowed to, see him or do anything at the end. And it was a very, very sad story, but she knew that she wanted some kind of life celebration for him. So just recently, Lisa and I wrapped that up. We do the consulting services for that. So we came up with a whole plan for her, soup to nuts, giving her choices on who to call, when to call, who to ask for, the whole thing. And she was able to pull off an end of life celebration well after, a year after her husband passed away. So it's always a part of your life, and it doesn't matter when it is. Don't let anybody tell you any different. When, where, how, why. She was nervous because one person had mentioned to her in the family that, why are you doing this now? There's no reason for this.
And I went crazy and said to her, don't really care what other people think. It's what you want. It's, it's all about how you feel, and don't worry about anything else. The thing about Susan and I is, number one, we're really organized people, but we're also really creative people. We're good at events. I mean, both of us have done really nice events, special events. And so whether it's a life celebration, whether a person's here or not here, I mean, the fact is that you are doing everything you can to really say, wow, what an amazing person. And it's just a great feeling. And
you're so happy to have had them in your life. You're honored.
Yeah.
And it's a treasure to have gotten to walk part of this life experience with them.
That's right.
Along the way.
That's right. And then, of course, we haven't mentioned the courses. So on EastEnd.Academy, there are courses. Susan has done a lot of courses, but we did a course together called What Does a Dying Person Want? Very honest and very open. And you'll see that on there as well. You should explore that so that you do see the options for learning. And they're very affordable. It's not like they're thousands of dollars or anything. They're very affordable courses. But again, both of us with our experiences, and we both have vast experience. This is really a topic. I wish that people could really see this better and experience this and understand how important this is. I wish they were where we are.
And I think we're getting there, Lisa, with all the awareness. I've been an end of life doula now coming up on 3 years. And, we were told in school that within the next couple years, the world will know what doulas are and the magnificent thing we could bring into people's lives. But the process has been slower. It's been a little bit challenging along the way to just educate people and get them to know who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing, and awareness is being raised, and many more people are getting into the field, and even medical people that are in the field for many, many years, they want to know, what else do I need to know?
They should. Because everything that they do is going to be affected by how the people react and what happens to them emotionally and mentally and everything else. Yes.
Well, this was great, Lisa.
It was, Susan.
It was nice. We were a little worried about talking about our own books, but it worked out really well.
Right.
So that they can serve and be a help to somebody else.
Yeah. And remember that they can get our books on Amazon by searching our names, or they can go to those websites that we mentioned, that we showed. So until next week, thank you very much.
Next week, Lisa.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.